When it comes to early Yu-Gi-Oh formats, like early formats, the typical timeline goes from Yugi Kaiba to Critter to Android. Each of these three specific formats brought something new to the then infant stage of the game. One thing that was different back then, however, was the release of the limited list. It isn't like nowadays where Konami makes one in a relative similar time each year to have a change-up of meta play or for the game's health. Back then, the sets were arguably more impacting to the scene given the limited card pool and the difference between casual and absurd cards. That meant the lists then TCG distributor Upper Deck put out there were seemingly more random and thus some formats slipped through the cracks. One of these is the topic of the video, which is the October 2002 list. This list is quite an interesting one as it was the first list to ban Japanese, Asian English, and counterfeit cards from sanctioned play. Yeah, think about bringing Darkly Big Rabbi to an earlier tournament and throwing the book at the judges. While the cards on the list are still in place, the list limited 7 cards from the most recent set, Magic Ruler, Cyberjar, Confiscation, Delinquent Duo, Painful Choice, Snatch Steal, Forceful Sentry, and Upstart Goblin. Aside from one monster, these were all extremely powerful Magic cards from a Magic card-heavy set. Magic Ruler took what Metal Raiders did with cards in general and amplified it with the introduction of quick play cards. Magic that you can activate from your hand in response to another card during your turn, or activate from the field during your opponent's turn. It was the bridge between Magic and traps and gave duelists another tool to manage, whether for offense or defense. Opponents set a back row and end phase, Typhoon that card and don't worry about it. Or use Rush recklessly to give your monster that needed boost, raw power. Of course, the set had other meta-defining cards that weren't Magic cards, like Cyberjar, Relinquished, Floater Monsters, and Mahavilo. It increased the speed of the game immensely by introducing more cards that gain you more cards. It also morphed Good Stuff decks to a whole new look, plus adding new decks to the meta. Beatdown decks were better than ever. The addition of Acts of Despair and Mahavilo made equipped decks viable. You also had hand control existing better than before now. Snatch Steal created the Snatch Beat deck, which is a variation of the Soul Control deck. Of course, there was also Relinquished, the first ritual deck in the TCG. But the Mahavilo Beatdown deck was the most prominent deck out of this format because with any simple equip, Maha could beat over any big monster like Summon Skull, Blue Eyes, and Barrel Dragon. The latter two saw more play back in the day. Magic format is one that no one talks about, and I get it. Critter was a very important shift for the game, and Android was the next big format considering it added a more rounded card pool that was right before the release of Yatagarasu. Hell, there was even a format after Magic, but before Android that I may discuss one day. The Magic format deserves to be remembered for its own contributions to the game and maybe even get its own slot on formatlibrary.com. If there's one thing I can say about this, is that Magic format rules.